meet us, and I am here with Diana Sumpter, National Sales Director with Mary Kay. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Karen. How are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Can you just tell us a little bit about you, like where you're from and how you kind of got started in Mary Kay?
Absolutely. I've been a part of Mary Kay for 30 years. Before I started my Mary Kay business, I was active duty in the Air Force and designed and installed computer and telephone systems.
Amazing.
Loved what I did. At the time I was first introduced, I was 23 years old, living in Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow.
And the lady that watched our daughter about 70 hours a week was the lady who introduced me to the world of Mary Kay.
So what made you take the leap from military? Did you wear makeup?
No. In fact, I joined the Air Force. I turned down a full college scholarship because I did not want to hang out with women. I didn't want that experience at all. I started in the military so that I would never have to work with women. In fact, I told my recruiter, I said, I don't even want to see a woman. They whine and moan and groan, and I don't want any part of it. I had a bit of an image problem with me being a part of Mary Kay for sure. And I can remember when Wanda first introduced me to the company, and I just remember thinking, wow, this is great for you, and wow, I've heard great things about the company, but I wash my face with shampoo, and I don't know where makeup goes, and I hate women, and I work all the time, and so this just isn't for me, was my first thought.
That is
and second,
hilarious.
And third, quite possibly my 100th thought as well.
So tell us how you went from, the military job and your daughter 70 hours in daycare. Like, how did that feel? What pushed you over the edge to get to this place?
Well, honestly, that was it. That was what pushed me over the edge. Our daughter spent her first 7 weeks in neonatal ICU. And when that happened, there was a part of me that shifted. And I realized it was a privilege to be a mom.
Yeah.
And so this military career that I wanted, I was really on the fast track. In fact, at that time, I was interviewing with the CIA to go to work there. So the career path looked really good. Yeah. But the more I looked at it, the less I could see I could have time for my faith, for our daughter, for our marriage. I fell madly in love, lust, whatever, with my man the first time I saw him 35 years ago. And so I just felt like it was such a privilege to be married to somebody that you were in love with, and the privilege to be a mom, especially a lot of my friends can't have kids. And so there just came this point where if I keep doing what appears to be a great career, for me personally, I'm going to give up what's important. And that's what I heard at my very first event was I knew I didn't have the time. I was working rotating 12-hour shifts. I was gone on a military trip about 10 days out of every month. I couldn't tell my husband where I worked or what I did. I was on call 24/7. And then I had college courses.
Wow.
Because I have the equivalence of electronic engineering degree. I just didn't have the degree. So when I was first introduced to Mary Kay, the time was, I have to tell you, as much as I had an image issue, the time really for me was a bigger issue.
Yeah.
And the night that I was introduced, it was just like, you know what? The lady said, if nothing changes, nothing changes. I'm a 6-figure work from home mom because I decided to take one step, right? I didn't know what the second or third step, and I didn't know the how, but I know that when the why would be in place, that the how would reveal itself. Yeah. And then my heart started to beat, and I got started that night on a bad credit card. Because I might have had some money issues. So when they said, oh, we'll teach you in time and money, I thought, well, dang, that'd be worth my time just to figure out what the heck to do with these darn credit cards. So,
That's amazing. So what is something that would have potentially held you back from doing Mary Kay?
Really, what almost stopped me from the beginning, after I worked myself through it, and, of course, you're an amazing self-coacher. We were just talking about that. I don't know if coacher is even a verb, but I think I made it an adverb or something. I don't know how you make that, but whatever it is, you know what I mean. But you're an expert at self-coaching. Let's say it like that. One of the things is that night I was all in. Like, I was powerful. I could envision like my dream life, right? I could see me being at home, and I love to cook. I know the woman I am is because my mom chose to be a stay-at-home mom, and it was that hour or two every afternoon. It was dinners around the table. It was very beaver cleaver, but I knew in order for me to do what I needed to do, it came from those roots, and I didn't want to take that from our family. The difference was I knew I couldn't just stay at home. Like, I knew that I was called for a career. I've always known I was going to make 6 or 7 figures. I've always known I was going to have a platform, but I had never seen them melded together. So the night that I was there, that was the first time in my life I had ever seen people be passionate about a career that made a difference in the lives of other people. So that part was good. what happened though, whenever I went home, going from pitiful to, or powerful to pitiful is really what happened. My husband was totally against it, and not because he didn't think I could do it, it's that he didn't know anything about it, and I'm very gullible. So I always laugh, my favorite F word now is fun and faith and fellowship. That was not our go-to word back in the day, and so there was a lot of words flying around that night. And even then, I was still like, but I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this for us. But then whenever I went and started talking to people, and this is where it almost stopped for me, I heard all these crazy things. I had a friend, her face fell off, and had a basement full of Mary Kay, and blah, blah, blah. And I had this friend and all of that. Yeah. And less than 12 hours later, I called to quit. And, I shudder at the thought that the life that I was called to live, like I was knit together in my mother's womb to do this. But it almost stopped less than 12 hours because of what other people said or what things that I had read about this, right? Yeah. And so I can remember calling my director and I said, Connie, I can't do this. In fact, I was crying because I knew that if I gave up on this, that I would spend the rest of my life living somebody else's life, that I would spend the rest of my life in regret. Yeah. Right. And I remember telling her, I just can't do it. I just don't have the time, and I don't wear makeup, and I don't know anyone. It's just not the right time. I'll talk to you after the first of the year. And she's like, how did that change? Yeah. And I'm so thankful that she pushed back a little bit. It's not her nature, by the way. And so I told her what all I had heard and read and all this. And she said, Diana, don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with. If you're going to go to college, are you going to talk to a college dropout, or are you going to talk to a college graduate, right? You're going to talk to somebody who's been married 25 times or 25 years, right? Would you financially, spiritually, and emotionally trade places with these people? And I'm like, Lord, no, they're as tired, crabby, crazy as I am. And she said, and here's the other thing to ask you. If you quit on you right now, if you quit on yourself right now, are these people going to pay the consequences for that choice? Are they going to allow you to be at home with your daughter? Are they going to allow you to live out your dream life? Are they going to pay off your debt? I'm like, no, they can't even pay off their own debt. She said, why would you allow people who have quit and people who don't even know what they're talking about influence your decision? And y'all, I'm so thankful because no matter what it is that you're going to research, whether it's faith or marriage or relationships or a business or whatever, there's always going to be a group of people that don't like it, right? But if you wouldn't trade places with them, right? And if you can't counter their pushback, then don't take advice from them. And I'm so thankful because the life that I lead now and the impact that I have, all almost stopped because of people who really did care about me. Because 8 months later, when we earned the use of our very first free car, who's sitting there but my crazy husband and all these people at their job, oh, we knew she could do it. But that was a lie. I mean, a bald-faced lie, right? But in the beginning, they're the ones who almost stopped me. And Karen, I know that you're also a successful businesswoman, very successful in your Mary Kay as well. Think about all the people that you've seen get to the point where they're all in, and then because of what a couple people say or what they read, all of a sudden they're all out. Yeah. And you and I know they're going to pick up that cleanser and go, oh, gosh, I wonder what if. Right. Right. Yeah. And I just couldn't imagine that. And the idea of being a six-figure work-from-home mom was exciting. Yeah. By the time Samantha hit kindergarten, she was 18 months old. So by the time she hit kindergarten, I was a six-figure work-from-home mom. That's very exciting. And so one of the funniest stories with her, she was in the second grade, and the teacher called and she said, Diane, I have to tell you what Samantha said. And I said, she heard it from her dad. And so, because I didn't know what she was maybe sharing. And she said I had asked for volunteers, and Samantha raised her hand and said, oh, my mom can do this. And the teacher told me, she said to Samantha, hey, Samantha, what does your mom do? And she said, no, she doesn't work. She just talks on the phone and drives around in a pink Cadillac. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a blessing to be, making six figures, right? And then your daughter not even know that you work, right? Right. And so those are the things that I want to be able to give away to other people. See, in my military job, I would have been successful, but I couldn't have given it away. Yeah. I could have only coached people so much, right? In this, I get to get up every single day. Every breath I take is about equipping people to live out their dream life. It's going to look different than mine, but to equip them to be able to do that, I know that's why you love it as well. Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so glad your director shared that with you because you're here with us. Yeah. That's amazing. Give us some Mary Kay stories. You were trained by the woman herself, and she was a person. So tell us about what it was like to be in the presence of the greatest female entrepreneur of all time. Oh my goodness. It's I think whenever I think of Mary Kay, the first word that comes to mind is humble. And you wouldn't think that of somebody that has had the worldwide impact that she had. I can remember sitting in her living room as a brand new sales director. You know, we all start out as a consultant, and then whenever you grow your customer base and you grow your team, you can promote yourself to the position of directorship. And I can remember sitting at her home, and she baked us cookies.
Oh
I mean,
my
she was
gosh.
such a servant leader. She had just had bionic knee surgery. We called her bionic knee. She had 2 knee surgeries. And she came out and she called us her daughters. And she said, my daughters, I'm so proud of you. I was very skeptical of Mary Kay. I'm going to do a sidebar real quick and then come back to the story. When we earned the use of our first company car, Tom and I said, there's no way they're going to let us. There's no way they're going to lease this car in our name. And if they ask for one dime, we're going straight to the papers. Because in the military, they may not have followed through on everything they said. So we were a little skeptical. And so they kept talking about this faith first, family second, career third. And I thought, yeah, I heard that in the military, right? Family friendly. I'm like, not very family friendly that I can see, but but I just thought it was just like this thing, right? Just to recruit people. So I was ready for Mary Kay to launch into this, go. And in her quiet, still voice, Mary Kay was very quiet. She said, I'm going to ask each one of you before you go and hold another appointment, because I know that you got your priorities out of whack to get this position done, just like you did when you got married, just like you did when you worked on a degree, right? She said, but when you go home, I'm going to ask you to spend time with the Lord and spend time with your family, because if you lose your faith or your family on the way to the top, you're not a success. And Karen, I'm going to tell you, I started to cry because the last wall just broke. And that's really whenever I went all in on Mary Kay, because I thought, if that is coming from the founder, right? Her son taught our new director, she and Richard, her son, who still runs the company, taught our new director education. And he talked about that it's an upside down pyramid, right? In other words, like, here's Mary Kay, and at the top are our customers. So like everything they taught us was servant leadership, that you will only go to where you want to go when you help enough people, reach their goals. Arlene Lenars, my senior national and Mary Kay national sales director, said, that we use our business to grow our people. We don't use people to grow our business. And, that's been my journey for 30 years. And so that's, people ask me, how do you continue to do it? It's like, because every day is different. Right? Every day, people have different dreams. Every day, people have different challenges. This is my 3rd generation, right, of learning how to work with millennials and learning how to speak the language. It's so fascinating. I'm so sad for people who are like, well, they're different than me. I'm like, praise the Lord, they're different. Oh my gosh, it's a whole new thing to be able to learn and be able to connect.
Yeah. So a question for you, Diana, is what would you tell a young entrepreneur that's just getting their career started?
I think the first step is to figure out with the end in mind. In other words, like, if you were guaranteed to succeed, right, money were no issue, how would you live your life? Where would you give your money away? Where would you live? Who would you live with? Like, all of that. And I think that if you can figure out your why and who would be impacted by that first, and the clearer you make that, the more the how will reveal itself. I think sometimes we're so worried about the next step and the big picture and how will I get there and how will I handle it? Well, you couldn't handle it today. That's why you're not there, right? But you can handle the next step. So I think the more that you seek out stories of people who are living a life, maybe like, I like to have mentors in every area, like, somebody that's very healthy, or somebody that has got a great walk with the Lord, or somebody that's a good wife, or somebody that's a good mom. Like, I love examples like that. I know I can't be all of those people, but what I like to do is to be able to take a little bit of that in order to create a dream life. And then what you do, then you can figure out, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to that dream life? And if not, I've either got to delegate it, right? Or I need to not do it, right? I always say to especially to entrepreneurs, you never have to give up anything that brings you joy. You never have to bring up anything or give up anything that is in your gift zone. What you have to give up are bad relationships, bad music, bad TV, bad books, bad inner circle. Those are the things. But the problem with that is that's very painful. Because then people are like, oh, you're always about your business, right? When they're talking about, Game of Thrones for 9 hours, right? But you can't mention that you got a business, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I'm a little hooked on Game of Thrones, so don't get me started.
It's
Winter is coming.
It really
Winter is coming. That's right. I can't believe it's 2018. I got to wait on dang. Okay, good. We watched it forward and then we watched it backwards. So the porn scenes I watched like this. And so I didn't want to make Jesus sad. So the rest of it was good.
Yeah.
I'm military. I like all the blood.
It's quite gory.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So tell me about your routine. I mean, I'm assuming you must be a master of that. And just what is a day in the life of Diana Sumpter?
You know, I don't wake up to an alarm clock. I am a morning person. I pretty well can tell myself what time I want to get up. Like this morning, I want to get up at 5 so I could prepare, you know, today. So I just kind of get up around 5. That's kind of my favorite time. So I get up and then I do my quiet time. Okay. I started that really a very short amount of time. I hung out with a girlfriend of mine. In fact, she's kind of your grandma in the Mary Kay world, Dawn Dunn. And I watched what she did as a morning quiet time, you know, where she did her gratitude journal, spent time in the Word, and then was reading a book. And I thought, oh, I could do that because I have ADD. And so all of those are just like 5 little short minutes, right? And so I could start there. Yeah. Where before I used to read and I'd be like, I'd go right back to sleep. And so now it's about 45 minutes, but it started out several years ago, just a few minutes. Another thing that I do that I feel very, very strongly about is I do not even look at my phone or my iPad until I'm ready. So I don't use, even if I had an alarm clock, it would not be my phone. We are upstairs, my phone is down here, my office and my prayer chair is downstairs. So I don't even look at that until I'm done because I want to be prepared. The most freaked out, frazzled, frustrated people that I know are the ones who wake up to that phone and they've been hit by everything and they can't ever catch their breath. Yeah. So I think a lot of the peace that I have really does come from that morning time. I wish I could tell you I work out. I do not. I have now officially bought Daily Burn so I can watch them work out. And then I also invest in my local Y. And in fact, I even do a Bible study at the Y and walk past the machines. I mean, like that is really, there is an issue there. But so at some point I'll add that in, maybe not, I don't know. As long as I make more money, I think my husband's good. So it's all right. And so that's kind of the thing. And then what I do is then I pull out my date book. Again, I haven't gotten to my phone. I pull out my date book. I pray over my day. Depending on your religious affiliation, that's not a requirement, but just to look over that and then decide what are your priorities. In my business and in my ministry, and you know, my book is coming out. I have a Lunch and Learn blog, so I have a lot of different areas, very active in church and ministry. So what I do is I just look at my book for today, tomorrow, this week, and next week. And then I look at what are the 10 most important calls that I need to make and what are the 6 most important things that I need to do today that's going to make today, tomorrow, next week easier. Yeah. So it's that few minutes of strategy, and then I'm going to reach out to everybody before I even let my phone get to me. Do you follow where I'm going with that? So I'm in control of I'm very proactive of that. So then that way, before life hits me, I've been able to touch the things that make a difference.
That's amazing. How did you master that discipline?
Oh gosh, I just really trial and error. You know, finding what works for me. I talk to women about, you know, what does that look like. I study those that are successful in areas that I'm weak in. I've always believed that throwing money at where you're weak. Right? That means I've read every book known to man. You know, I go to, you know, trainings, podcasts, anything like that. So whenever I always pray, you know, Lord, reveal my blind spots as much as I can bear. So yeah, that's from Pete Wilson. I'm like, oh, that's like just as much as I can bear today. And so whatever that is, that's kind of it normally takes me about a year to really refine something like that. Another thing that has helped a lot too is finding out what is really important to your family. And Karen Pirro, who is my mentor in Mary Kay, at my very first training, I was still active duty in the Air Force, and I was earning the use of my company car, and she taught this particular concept that has changed our life. And that is, for my family and many, is she said, go home and ask your husband what makes you a good wife. And so I'll dig a little deeper. She's a lot classier than me. I'm a little on the trashy side. So I said, look, you can get laid either way, but, right? Okay, so here's the thing. I need you to tell me, what is it that makes me a good wife? Because I'm doing all of these things and I don't feel appreciated. And then yet I'm feeling frustration from you. And so he said, well, honestly, Diana, really, I grew up with a single mom, so all these dinners, I don't really need those. And he said, I'd love for you just to like grab a beer and watch movies with me on Friday night, Saturday, and don't answer the phone during dinner. That's it. Really, everything else is great. And I thought, well, what about the laundry? And he's like, well, you're not really good at it. Why don't I take that over? I'm like, well, praise the Lord. Of course, my mom told me if I turned his underwear pink long enough, he'd take it. Hopefully he doesn't watch this. And so he took over that. And then the other thing we agreed on was what could I delegate out? And so every time that we get in a season where it's, I can tell when we're in a season, I'm going to overwork and he's going to get really quiet. So then we come back together. Okay, where have we pivoted away from that? And then with our daughter in every season is, what does it make me a good mama? Right? Because it's different. So then, and then now with our granddaughter, what makes me a good nana? Right? So what are the things that are important? Because what's happening, y'all, especially you young entrepreneurs, you're trying to be what you think is a good wife or a good mom or a good girlfriend, right? But it's not what they think. And what happens is you're putting all your energy over here, and it's a waste of time. It's really a waste of time. So what happens is when you only focus on what's important to your family, all of a sudden you have all this time to grow your business because you're only focused on what's important to them, and then vice versa. And that's why we've been able to, gosh, I would put our, not that there's a comparison, but I'd put our marriage up against anybody's I know. We've been together 35 years. Wow. All my best friends have been married 40 years or beyond. And it's because of conversations like that. And we're highly successful with our business. See, we didn't use our family as an excuse to be mediocre either.
Yeah. Wow. So what would you tell your younger self? If you could tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Better with money. Absolutely. That's easy. Absolutely. To work on the hang-ups that I had about money. Because I grew up initially in an evangelical upbringing, very legalistic denomination. It was taught that, number one, women really shouldn't work out of the home too much, and that if you were really wealthy you couldn't go to heaven. My parents, my dad, I'm the first woman in my family to graduate high school. My dad was born in a tent. My grandparents were sharecroppers, so we come from very, very poverty, very much of a poverty mentality. So anytime my parents would see wealthy people, they would, oh my gosh, they gave up everything. We hate rich people, those darn rich people. There was so much negative that went along with that I wish earlier in my career, I always knew I could make a ton of money. The problem was that I would always overspend and get rid of it because I didn't want to be one of those rich people, right? And so whenever I read the book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, it absolutely shifted my core. The problem was I was 10 years into it, and I had already buried us. I came into the business in debt, and then I buried us 2 more times. Even though I was making $100,000 or more, I buried us again. And it wasn't for lack of money. It was that internally I couldn't handle that. I would definitely work on my head. I would work way more on finding things that excited me to give money away, right? So if I could find things that I was more passionate about to give more money away, then that would have made a difference.
So Diana, tell us about your book.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I am so excited. It's been 3 years. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've been in labor for 3 years. I have thought about a book for a long time about stepping out of the box. And it's all the lessons that I've learned through 30 years in business, my 8 years in the Air Force, time in ministry, the marriage. I just felt like that there was a great message, and I've had a lot of opportunities to share that within our Mary Kay world. And then whenever I would speak in other organizations, what I found was that other people wanted to kind of hear it. And so there was always this prompting to write it. And then it's kind of like that second conversation of, well, I'm not a writer. Oh my gosh, I can do that. And then I can remember I was sitting in my prayer chair, and it was just like, okay, that's it. That's it. I am going to write this darn book. So I put it out on Facebook, right? And I was really, really good for about a year. And then I just kept going away. And then a little bit from it. And then our dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he came to live with us for about 10 months before he passed. And it was during that time, obviously, I didn't do anything other than I just had the privilege of, being here with my sweet daddy. And during that time, I felt like the Lord needed me to be quiet so that I could hear the rest of the message. And so now I know why it took me longer, to be able to get to this point. And so then once Daddy passed, then I just felt this burning desire that I needed to do this. But there was something about it that I just could not find the time. Like how like when you're putting off something and you're like, okay, wait a minute, my why isn't clear. Kind of what I talked about in the beginning. Because I didn't want it to get in the way of my business, right? Because I love what I do, and I don't ever want it to distract from that. And so whenever I figured out that it was the same message, just in a different arena, then I went on fire again and finished it out, rewrote the majority of it. And so it's just really all about the things that would equip a woman to step out of her box and into her dream life. I always talk about, my can of glitter. When people get on your nerves, you just wipe their name off their board, put your hand over your heart and say, bless their little hearts. You know, they're doing the best they can. Squirt yourself with glitter.
Right.
You guys squirt yourself with static guard. So I learned that because I was at seminar teaching and I forgot all my props. And so we were running through the backstage. Y'all know this because y'all are in production. I was pulling everything that nobody had a can of glitter. They only had static guard. So I was in front of like 500 people and I'm like, squirt yourself with static guard. Ooh, that's a whole lot harder than glitter. I'm like, and then I thought, well, we need static guard because, right, don't we have staticky people in our life? Yeah. So now I really think you need both. You need it on both sides, a little glitter, a little static guard. It's all good. Yeah, so there you go. So that's really my lesson. That's kind of the whole thing around the book. Is around that. And then there's 3 doors that everyone gets up and they have a choice. One is to walk through the door of the land of the lazy. The second is to meander in the maze of mediocrity. And then the third one is to step into the elite land of excellence. And so those are the final 3 chapters in the book of what it's like to live there and how to move from one to the other. I'm very, very, very excited. It goes to the company today for approval and then final layout. And then we're prayerful that it will be, depending on how long all the approval stuff takes, by hopefully early summer is what we're hoping for.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then I'll be reading parts of it through my Lunch and Learn, my Sparkle Lunch and Learn, Diana Sumpter Sparkle. I do that every Wednesday. Of course, you were a guest today.
Yeah,
and so I do that for about 15, 20 minutes every Wednesday. Yeah. And so I'll be reading parts of the book from there.
Along those lines, did you ever imagine that you could have the life that you have now? Like, walk us through how that feels.
There are days that I can't even believe my life. Like, you know, like Tom and I were talking this weekend. Like, you know, I met him. I just turned 18. I've known him since I was 18 years old, and like it was everything we said we would never do. That was what we were supposed to do, right? I was supposed to stay in the military. We weren't going to have kids, and we were both going to retire from the military. That's what's going to be our dream life. Mm-hmm. And yet, what if we had followed that, right? And now to live a life where you get up every single day and you get to pour your life out into other people, right? Whether it's through ministry or whether it's through business or whether it's just giving a compliment somewhere, and to not be buried in debt and not to be being told what you were worth, or you know, not to have to worry about that, to always be able to take care of your family, you know, so that people can't tell you that. Yeah, sometimes it takes my breath away, and it's very humbling. And it would be, I think it would be very challenging to have this life if you couldn't give it away. Like if you couldn't recreate it for other people. That's why I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, really through the direct selling industry, because it's repeatable, right? And so the other things that I do, I can't really give that away. But this is the one arena where I could teach people to be able to have a life like that.
So Diana, you've been on so many amazing trips with Mary Kay.
Yes.
Can you tell us where your favorite country or place has been?
Yes, my favorite is Alaska. Even though we've been everywhere, we love the Alaskan cruise, and we just love it. You know, where you can sit out on the balcony and see all the whales and all of that is our favorite. My favorite, like, wow moment. We were in Ephesus, and that day we had walked around, you know, the ruins of Ephesus, and I always kind of laugh about this, you know, because I'm a holy roller, and my husband, he was atheist, now he's like agnostic, so every 30 years he just moves like a little bit, and so I was a little more excited for Ephesus for other reasons, so I'm like, oh my gosh, the Apostle Paul walked here, and he's like, just calm down, calls me the flying nun, and he's like, all right, flying nun, you need to just calm down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the fish, and you know, he's very understanding, obviously, and so I'm just like freaking out, oh my gosh, this is so cool, but there's like 1 million people there.
Yeah.
So they say, there's this little note in our room, and it says, we have a surprise for you. So get dressed up. And so they picked us up in these beautiful buses, and then they dropped us off at exactly where the sea would have been there at Ephesus. And then they had a red carpet, and you could see the columns. And Mary Kay had leased out the entire excavation site for us to have a private concert at the base of the Colosseum, of the amphitheater. Unbelievable. I mean, I'm just like, Tom and I are both like, oh, this is so cool. Right? I mean, like, so I mean, just some wow things. Wow. Like, yeah, that's like, where do you do that? People are like, oh, I've been there. I'm like, I bet you ain't been there like I am. Because, you know, when Tom and I traveled, you know, we would get Chinese takeaway, right? You know, whenever we would go live in a bed and breakfast, right? Stay in a bed and breakfast. And now, you know, who would have thought I would go to Beijing, right? And have dinner at the Hall of the People, which the people can't even go to. Just us and Mary Kay can get there. Chinese people can't get there. But, you know, we had a $500 per plate. That was our 50th anniversary. You know, so you think about, you know, when we were young and dumb and broke and fun, and I mean, and people say, oh, you probably had more fun. No, We did not. That only poor people say that. Only poor people say, "Oh, money can't buy you happiness." No, you just saying that because you're broke. And because now here's the thing: money can't buy you joy, right? I personally believe joy comes from a relationship with Christ. But happiness, it most definitely can buy you happy because you never do anything you don't want. The other day, Tom and I were laughing. This is so funny. We were just laughing because we had somebody out doing our yard, and then we had somebody painting. We had our housekeeper here. We had somebody. One of my assistants was working. We had a couple of virtual people going, and we went up and took a nap. We're like, how fun is this? Now this is happy, right? And the cool part about making all this money is that you get to invest in other entrepreneurs, right? So people think, well, I don't want to give that money away. I'm like, well, you selfish, silly person. I mean, that's 7 businesses that other people are living out their dream life because I can pour into them. Yeah. I mean, there was 7 people that were blessed for us to go take a nap. Is that a crazy life or what?
That is insane.
Yeah.
What about your favorite food?
I'm a carnivore. So if it's meat, Mexican food, I probably just soon eat it at Taco Bell as any place on the planet. I love Mexican food. Yeah. I would rather have a bean burrito than a steak probably, but yeah. I'm a simple girl. I don't even get the fancy stuff. I'm like, y'all can't order $3 things at Taco Bell. You go to Taco Bell because you only got change in your wallet. So there you go. All the money you can find in your car. Yeah.
Amazing.
Kind of my thing.
Okay, and then our last question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
I pray, obviously, for me as a follower of Christ, that whenever I stand before the Lord, that I hear, well done, good and faithful servant. I live my life for an audience of one. I can't control what people are going to think here or anything. So the choices I make is through that filter. Mm-hmm. For people that don't have a faith, you could correlate that into the people that were the closest to me knew that they were a priority and that they were loved without question for who they are. But that's how I live my life.
Thank you so much for chatting with us, Diana. It was
thanks.
Amazing. Guys, check her out. She's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On Facebook, she is Diana Sumpter Sparkle, and her website is dianasumpter.com.
Good. Thank you all. Thank you for your time, Karen. Thank you. I'm so excited for your legacy and for your Fem Empire. Oh my gosh, lives are going to be changed because of who you are and the excellence that you lead and the choices that you make. And thank you for not ever settling. And thank you for thinking outside the box.
Of course. Thank you.